Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Today we find the next Daniil Hunter, Stefon Diggs, and Josh Metellus in the draft.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. No, we won't.
Hey, this is Arif Hasan from the Wide Left Substack. I am so mad at Sam for intending to create a women's tournament for the Locked On Vikings podcast group and then not doing it because I definitely would have won.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
Welcome into a brand new week on the Minnesota Football Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first watch or listen in this brand new week. We are on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed, where Luke Braun produces great daily Vikings content with Locked On Vikings. On today's show, more review from KOC at the coaches' meetings, and Kevin Seifert wrote a great summary of 7 big lessons we learned from the Vikings offseason. We'll see what stands out to us. We're going to find the next, contrary to what Luke Braun says, he's a downer. We're going to find the next Stefon Diggs, the next Daniil Hunter, the next Josh Metellus in the draft. We're going
to be the ones
to deliver. I'm going to quiz these guys on the Vikings' positional spending as well, see where they stand in the NFL, and we'll get into some crazy draft trends. It's all coming up on a show that is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's dive right in. Minnesota Vikings offseason is largely in the rearview mirror at this point, except for the draft. Most of the decisions have been made. Most of the players have been acquired. We're still looking for a backup quarterback, but it's probably not going to be Aaron Rodgers. Kevin Seifert wrote a really good summary, 7 lessons that were learned this offseason. And I thought there were some good quotes from KOC, some good stats to add context. I've jotted down a few things that stood out to me, but I want to go around the horn and see what stood out to you guys as well. Luke Braun, your thoughts?
Yeah. I can't stop thinking about what they want to do with Isaiah Rodgers. Like, it's clear to me that they want him to start, but how the entire argument around Isaiah Rodgers is Flores wanted this guy, he must be good. It gives us like no insight on like how they want to utilize him on the outside. That means they want to play more press, if that means they want to play more man than they did before, how much do they trust him? He is not that typical of Flores piece to me because he doesn't have that like DB versatility. He doesn't have that inside outside that we're always looking for, moving him around. Like, he is just going to kind of be like glued to the outside, probably play sides, and like that'll be that. So what it is that Flores liked so much about him is an interesting question to me that I just haven't gotten around to really looking into, but it keeps coming up. The beat keeps talking about it.
Yeah, I find it just kind of interesting, that approach. Like, Flores likes him, he must be good. Which, like, last year, of course, that bore out. Flores liked a couple of guys. They all played outstanding football. Great. Historically, that has not really been, like, his track record is probably better than most coaches. But, like, coaches liking a guy doesn't mean that guy is good, right? Especially when it's, like, a free agent versus, like, an internal guy. So I don't want to like say pump the brakes on this guy, but kinda I do, right? Like, I don't know that there's a ton of evidence that we have here that he's going to be a game changer in the way that it seems like the beat is talking about this guy. As for me, I think the Seifert thing that stood out is actually, I think the first item that he mentioned was the injury stuff. And it more stood out because I think this is just how the beat approaches these things. Like, as football has changed, and this is not a knock on Seifert, who's one of the best beat writers in the country, right? But rather, I just think that this is like an attitude or an approach to beat writing that I think kind of misses the mark a little bit, which is, so Seifert writes that, the Vikings have a lot of trust in their athletic staff, right? So they grab a bunch of injury prone players, right? And then they believe that their athletic staff is going to be better than the athletic staffs of like 31 other teams and going to, produce, healthier outcomes for a lot of players, which is why they grab injury prone players. And that's probably true, right? They almost certainly do trust their injury staff. They brought some over from the Los Angeles Rams. They very much believe in these guys. But I also think that part of the approach here is that the very first sentence I think Seifert wrote in the piece was like, it used to be the case that if a guy was injured a couple of times, he'd be injury prone and then he'd continue to get injured. And it's just, maybe that's how we thought of it, but that's not what has been happening, right? Like, historically, injury prone players, unless, it's the same injury, like you can get more granular in some details. If it's a back injury, that's probably going to remain an injury. If it's a same leg injury 3 times, it's probably going to continue to be an injury. But historically, a player that gets injured 3-4 times and they're different injuries, they're not injury prone. And I think the Vikings are taking advantage of that in free agency. And then when asked about it, instead of saying, yeah, we think the market is wrong, they'll say, we trust our guys, because that's the right answer from a public facing, organization, to just say, we trust our guys. And so I found it interesting, not because I agree with it. Obviously I agree that the Vikings are grabbing a bunch of injury prone players. They have been since even before Kwesi, but especially since he became the front office, leader. I think that it's just like maybe an incorrect interpretation of the Vikings' approach here, or maybe an incomplete interpretation is a better way to put it.
Yeah, they seem to have dialed in on a market inefficiency, that injured players are overlooked, injured players are underpaid. Is there any concern for you guys that some of the injured players they picked up are of an advanced age, 30, 32 in Hargrave's case? Does that concern you at all, that they might be hitting a cliff and experiencing injury setbacks?
I don't know if like they're gonna hit a cliff right now is the downside to that. There's, I guess, some risk that like you happen to get him like the year he gets old, but like I think the problem with it is more so that it's not a long-term solution, that it's only can be a short-term solution. So like what they did with the defensive tackles, right? Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. Okay, great. Let's even if we do say, let's say that those guys play well, stay healthy, do the whole thing. That's great for this year, but is it great for next year and the year after? We probably still need to draft a defensive tackle. It didn't like solve your need to draft a defensive tackle, even though you spent all that money. That's probably the downside there, but I do think that it's more than worth that downside.
The defensive tackle position is where I wanted to go. Seifert makes an interesting point that the Vikings were only in their base defense, so like 3 defensive linemen, for 13% of snaps in the 2 Flores years. Sure. So I looked at snap counts. Harrison Phillips played 59% last year. That was the most of any defensive tackle. Jonathan Bullard was at 50%, 574 snaps. Jerry Tillery was at 41%, 467 41%. Snaps. Do a little math on that. That's about 1,000 snaps that they are replacing, assuming that Bullard and Tillery don't return. Have they signed? I don't think they've signed. He did sign with not the Vikings, and Bullard is still at large.
The Chiefs. Yeah, Tillery signed to the Chiefs.
I believe Bullard is still at large. Yeah,
we're assuming they're not coming back. So 1,000 snaps to replace. Jonathan Allen's been about an 800 snap per year guy. Javon Hargrave has been a 700 snap per year guy when healthy. So there's 1,500 between those two, but only 1,000 in theory to go around. So I think we're probably looking at some snap rationing. And I wonder if that's almost a sell to those guys to say, hey, we're going to pay you handsomely. We're going to pay you fairly, but we are not asking
less
you.
Work.
Yeah, more money, less work. We're not asking you to be every down necessarily. We're asking you to be like the most robust rotation in the NFL. We're going to have Hargrave coming in on passing downs. We're going to have Allen out there on on rushing downs and passing downs, and Phillips is going to be, kind of a combination of both. That seems to me the direction it's going. I don't know where they find room for Redmond and Taki and LDR, but they are overqualified, I think, at defensive tackle right now. It's kind of impressive because they're going to have to adjust their snaps based on what they've done historically.
Somebody might not make the team, especially if they draft a guy. Like, you might just end up cutting someone like Jalen Redmond, and that's very sad to us. But or Levi Drake Rodriguez, that's very sad to us. But it's just the way. What?
I said rip, and then I said super rip. That would make
super rip. But I think the additional rotation and lowered snap counts is part of how you deal with the age thing, which is, sure, a downside. You're not going to get, 90% of snaps out of these guys. But Harrison Phillips only played 60%, and he was the highest D tackle on the team last year.
Yeah.
So it all rotates a lot.
I think also, we're gonna lose some Harrison Phillips snaps, by the way, which is gonna increase kind of the room that you're talking
he came
about.
off on third downs anyways, and I think somebody like Jonathan Allen stays on third downs.
I think that part of it is because we might get a little bit more from a nose tackle, whether it's in the draft or Taki Taimani or something like that. Not because Harrison Phillips is getting worse, but because it's better to kind of ration snaps for a guy playing that kind of role, because that role takes a toll on you, and it's very difficult to maintain a high level of play as a nose tackle doing 60% of snaps. So it's not because I think Harrison Phillips is going to get replaced, but more I think that there's more snaps to go around because you might move Jonathan Allen to the inside just a little bit on a couple of downs here and there. You might have Taki Taimani coming in. But I think 60% is kind of not a ton to ask a nose tackle, but it is a lot to ask a nose tackle. And I don't want to keep doing that because I think you can get a lot of really good snaps out of him.
I don't see them playing more base either. I don't think they're suddenly going to be in. Yeah, I mean, they're going to stay lean. They're going to stay fast. They're going to stick with Metellus for a large portion. I also wanted to point out the blip about Blake Brandel getting grace for last year, where there were some numbers that Seifert offered up that shows Brandel in a pretty unflattering light after he lost Christian Darrisaw, and I'll add a couple more. He was tied for the most pressures allowed in every game beyond the Darrisaw injury with 26. He was also, in that time, 58th out of 58 as a run blocker in that time. But it sounds like they're sticking with him, and I think we projected this, and we also talked about, do they go with Tyler Booker? That could be a week one starter, and we all agree that that's probably not the direction they go. So are you in agreement with simply giving Blake Brandel the job without significant competition? I think Juergen's name might have come up.
It comes up later in the piece that Juergens might be the competition, so they do that. It still feels a little moneyball-y to me, but they clearly see more out of Blake Brandel than you'll get out of a PFF grader pressure number.
Yeah. I mean, Braun, you were supportive somewhat of Ed Ingram, despite his PFF numbers being bad, but I think you liked his run blocking. Doesn't seem like the run blocking of Blake Brandel is particularly positive.
No, it's all very inconsistent, which is a nice way to say bad. But it's it manifests. There's a difference between the guy that's bad and you can't do everything with him, and the guy that you can do everything with. He's just going to mess up a few times, and the latter is what Blake Brandel has been. But that is certainly something you can improve upon in the offseason if you wanted to go get a guard. Obviously, they traded away Ed Ingram. They let Dalton Reisner walk, so that right guard was a more pressing issue. But it's not I guess, I don't know. I feel like if you feel good about 4 of the 5 linemen, the 5th guy is also not going to be too bad a priority. So I guess just slide Juergens over and see. I am so surprised about that. Juergens' preseason was catastrophic. It was horrible. I was like, are they going to keep this guy on the team? I know they just drafted him, but oh my God. So I'm pretty surprised to hear how much positive things come out of there every once in a while, especially as we were talking about the week when Ryan Kelly and Garrett Bradbury were still both on the team. And a lot of the Access Vikings talk about this was well, if they do get rid of Bradbury, who's your backup center then? Surely that means they must feel good about Michael Juergens. I'm like, they do? Why?
I mean, it sounds like they actually do. That's the crazy part. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, a lot of things can happen over the course of the season, right? So, like, maybe whatever technical issue that led to his poor preseason play got resolved in practices. I don't know. That feels kind of optimistic, but it's not unheard of. Just like it's not unheard of for a player to get good in his like third, fourth year. I don't want to like write Randall off, but I do think that the Vikings would do a better job with that position if they were able to add competition. Obviously, the capacity to add competition is difficult, right? Like, this is a really poor free agency class in general, just like across all positions. And the Vikings did a lot to tap the interior offensive line market already. There were not a lot of guys to sign in free agency that would be able to represent, clear competition. And so I don't want to like knock them, but that is a concern, right? And, maybe, in the draft, assuming they engineer a way to get enough picks, they'll grab a guy that could reasonably be considered competition for that spot. But I think that Luke's right that like there's only so much you can do in an offseason when there's so many positions to fill, especially when you're as aggressive as you are along the defensive line. That, hey, okay, so we are, quote unquote set, not really because you do want long term answers at center, but we're quote unquote set at 4 of the 5 positions, right? That fifth one, there is still an opportunity for that guy to get better. It's not like a Dalton Reisner where it's probably baked in the cake, right? Like, you don't have a lot of scenarios like Joe Berger, who's like suddenly late in his career is like outstanding. For the most part, these guys it's kind of baked in the cake. But yeah, I think that for the most part, okay, I'm getting like a lot of feedback that I should turn up my volume. Luke, you lied to me. You
Give the
said my
volume a
It
bump.
sounded fine to me.
Yeah.
Give it a bump. I can hear you, but yeah, give it. I've got the nice
I
headphones on.
just set it to automatically adjust my mic volume. Is that better? I don't know. But yeah, I think that you're probably fine if you've got.
It is not better, by the way. I think it even got quieter.
It got quieter. Good lord. Okay, I love live production.
Do a manual audio drag.
Yeah, while Arif deals with this, I just want to jump in and say one thing. I think the idea of Brandel having done just well enough to earn a shot at the job is fair. I think that's a fair evaluation of Brandel. Let him compete for it. He doesn't just get the job. He didn't play as well as Brian O'Neill. Nobody's going to compete with Brian O'Neill. He's not going to have to win a job in camp. Blake Brandel maybe has to win his job back in camp, even if that competition is against somebody relatively unserious, like a 7th-round rookie from last year.
How does this sound? Are we good?
Better.
Yeah. Great. Fantastic. Whatever. I'm kind of curious if they're going to continue throwing like late round picks at that position to see if like long term they can, produce somebody like Brandon Fusco or something.
I've got one positive note to end on from the Seifert story. So Kevin O'Connell pretty clearly is identifying Jordan Mason as your short yardage and goal line guy. So I looked up red zone rushing 22 through 24, so a 3-year sample. Running backs with 40 or more attempts. Jordan Mason, second in yards per carry in the red zone.
Yards per carry, that just means where they were when they ran the ball.
Wait, yeah, yards per carry in the red zone is a wild stat. How many of those touchdowns are 1 yard?
I don't care about criticism. It's impressive.
That's not a useful stat,
all right, real.
Sam.
I respect it.
It's impressive that he finds space in a congested area. I don't care what you say.
But,
and I'd like you to guess.
The 49ers are much more likely to run the ball from the 5-yard line than most teams. And so there's more space to find. Like, you get where I'm coming from. God.
What do you want? Success rate? I'll look
at
success rate.
You do that.
While I'm working on it, guess who the number 1 back is in yards per carry in the red zone?
I don't know. Is it Aaron Jones?
Think
That'd
change
be hilarious.
change of pace. Change of pace guy.
Change of pace guys. Amir Abdullah. I don't know.
Actually, very close. Like he's up there. Abdullah is
really
pretty high.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a bizarre rushing attack with Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison, and it didn't go at all how you think when you hear those two names.
Yeah. Okay, now everyone wants to guess Alexander Madison. It would be an interesting direction for the change of pace word. I would say, is it a Miami guy? Is it like Raheem Mostert or something? Devon Achane?
It is not. It's NFC.
Just say it.
You won a Super Bowl.
I was thinking, is it like Kenneth Gainwell?
Yeah.
Is it
Kenneth
Cam
Gainwell.
Akers? Okay. Kenneth Gainwell.
Cam
All right.
Kenneth Gainwell. Red zone.
Okay, that makes a
monster.
ton of sense. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Eagles could punch a bunch in from like 15 and get you like a 15-yard rushing touchdown
Well, also,
will
they're,
essentially
like-
break this stat for you.
Yeah, and also they're like not scared to run it from wherever because oh no, what happens if they come up 1 yard short? It's a touchdown.
Right.
That's what happens. Right. So like, who cares? Same with providing context for your stats. I hope
StatHead does
I know
not
you don't.
give the option to filter out success rate. So this is why I was hamstrung.
Excellent work, Sam.
Thank you. So you're on the record saying Jordan Mason overhyped. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that stat is bad. Jordan Mason's fine.
I don't think Jordan Mason's overhyped. I don't think those stats show it at all, but I'm actually pretty excited about him, and I think that there is a world where he ends up being RB1. Like, it probably requires Aaron Jones to like get injured and then Jordan Mason to get really hot, but like I kind of feel like that could happen.
It's going to be a rarity for one of them to get 15 carries in a game if they're both healthy. I think it's going to be super split.
Sure.
Remember
Sounds
when
great.
Ty Chandler, the projections were all like pretty heavy on Chandler being like a 50-50 back with Jones? Like all the fantasy sites were saying Jones is going to get like 700 yards and Chandler's going to get like 680 because they're going to split.
I think both
I
of
got
us
a lot of
pushed
texts
back
from
against
people that like fantasy season. They're like, oh, who's this Ty Chandler guy? Is he real? And I'm like, no.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I told people not to draft him, and you're welcome.
Correct, James. I love manipulating stats. That's what this show is about. When we return, we find the next Vikings diamonds in the rough in the draft. We've got names. It's on the Minnesota Football Party after this. It's tax week. I haven't done my taxes yet, but I know the program I'm using. It's Intuit TurboTax. Because taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guarantee. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. The game, gentlemen, is called Find the Next. Find the Next. Danielle Hunter in the draft. This is what I think of when I think of Danielle Hunter in the draft. Raw, toolsy, good measurables, low production. These are all of the stereotypes about a Danielle Hunter in the draft. I've got a name.
Shamar Stewart. I got it. There you go.
Okay,
Shamar Stewart.
Go for it. Why? Support it.
He's too high. I was going to say
it's a joke,
Sam.
It's a joke.
Oh.
No, he's a first round. I was joking.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's a first round pick, and and actually this kind of leads into my point about the segment. The existence of Danielle Hunter has made it impossible to find the next Danielle Hunter because a lot of these guys get pushed up in the draft.
Bakes
now.
that into the cake, as we were just talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now super toolsy guys without a ton of production get pushed up in the draft. Shamar Stewart's a really good example of that. So it's actually really difficult to find that kind of guy. I ended up looking through Pro Day data. I'm going to get a piece out about like Pro Days that stood out to me. And in terms of the data, so this is not a low production guy, but it's also not a great production guy. In terms of the data that suggest, the type of athleticism that translate well to edge rusher, I would go for Elijah Ponder. So he's not in anybody's top 100 as far as I can tell. He's not even on many big boards at the moment, but he was at the Shrine Game. He had an outstanding pro day. It wouldn't surprise me if he went undrafted. But I think he'll probably slip into day 3 given his workouts. Now he's got 29 and 7/8 inch arms. He's 6'2". So if he's undrafted, that's probably why. He's an FCS guy that's pretty short without long arms. But at 250 pounds, he ran a 6.99 second 3-cone. That is the workout that correlates strongest to edge rusher production in the NFL, and it also happens to be the position where workouts matter more. They help us project a little bit more than almost any other position in the NFL. He generated an 11-foot broad jump, 132 inches, and a 41-inch vert. So he's got explosion, he's got agility, he's got bend, at least according to the workouts. I did end up talking to his agent a little bit at the Shrine game, not out of my own volition. The guy just kind of walked up to me. And his
like an agent.
Yeah, his agent said he was recruited by Power 4 schools in his final year, before his final year of college at Cal Poly. I don't know if I believe him because there were a couple of other outstanding claims to go along with it. But fine, let's say that's true. He does have the athleticism to be a Power 4 guy. He ended up having something like 10 sacks in college, which from an FCS production perspective is not that great. Same with his like tackle for loss production, which I think that's one thing we forget about Daniil Hunter. He had really great tackle for loss production. But, you know, when I was able to see him at the Shrine game, he was like pretty good. So at least to the extent that when he goes up against, you know, Power 4 guys like Washington State tackles, you know, he does a pretty good job getting into the backfield. So that's my guy. In crazy good workouts, not ideally sized in the same way that Daniil Hunter was, but you know, I think that you could find him 6th, 7th round, maybe even undrafted.
Wow. Okay. So late in the draft. I like it. I'm going with, I was trying to like literally match rounds. So Daniil Hunter in the 3rd. I was looking for someone you could get in the 3rd.
The Vikings, a super freak in the 3rd round. Yeah.
And I've got him. Vikings are 97th,
Excellent.
right? The comp pick is like 97-ish. Quay Robinson out of Alabama. This is your classic, like toolsy with low production and relatively low impact on a volume level at Alabama. Big school, just like Daniil. About 6'4", 240, you know, really quick, can move, got some length to him. He only played about 400 college snaps. He had an arm injury last year where he played the most, to about 250 snaps, only had 5 college sacks. But his stable metrics are insane. Like the run stop, the run stop percentage, the run defense grade, pass rush win rate, all fantastic. Very projectable going forward based on his size. I don't think he did a full pro day because of that arm injury. So all the data is not there on him. I think he's probably going to be available around that 100 mark. Quay Robinson is the next Daniil Hunter. Is the next Daniil Hunter.
Is the next Daniil Hunter. Sorry, before you go, Luke Braun, I want to highlight the comment. Let's not forget who saw talent in D. Hunter in the first place, Andre Patterson. Good shout. I did want to point out that Andre Patterson also called DJ Wanham the next Daniil Hunter. So just be a little careful sometimes.
We all have our hits. We all have our misses.
Tayshawn Bauer, too.
Tayshawn Bauer. At least he went to the same school.
Alexander, I like the Savion Jones. Isn't he a little more inside, though? I thought he was a bit of an inside, like 3-tech, but I like that name, too. I thought that. Go ahead, Braun.
So I went outside of edge rusher for this. I was looking more for the spirit, the, you know, guy at a big SEC school who is good, hyper athletic. I needed like a relative athletic score over like 9.8, which Savion Jones 9.2, not good enough.
Not good enough.
But
not good enough
LSU,
for this.
He is an LSU Tiger, by the way, which you know, correlates pretty nicely.
Correlates.
Yeah, he's a little more of an inside guy, but can bump outside too.
So it was like Caleb.
And you know, everybody who comes from LSU is the exact same player. That's really what we're talking about.
That's what we've learned, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's what we learned from Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, who are definitely the same guy. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, who played the game the same way.
Same guy.
Yep.
Burrow and Jaden Daniels, same guy.
Yeah, same guy. Yep.
So I need a hyper athletic player who is good but falls for a dumb reason. And that to me, that is, I'm going to go on the offensive line. Tate Ratledge. He's going to go in like the 5th.
Oh, okay.
He got hurt. Super athletic. He got hurt, missed a bunch of his senior year, and he's good. That whole Georgia line is good. If you get anybody off that Georgia line, especially on the interior, you're going to be happy. But I think he's going to fall because, I don't know, people are like, don't trust his leg or his ankle. He like sprained his ankle and missed a few games. He's going to be a steal for somebody, I think.
I like how you're like, yeah, his injury, dumb reason to fall. People don't trust his leg. What an idiotic reason.
It's like he came back in that year. It's not like Savon Revel, who like, yeah, you like tore your ACL. We don't know if you're going to be ready for like that's a reason.
Right. It's funny.
We're also looking for Stephon Diggs in the 5th round. I thought this was the toughest of the exercises for whatever reason. I mean, I know that wide receivers can be abundant. I had a tough time figuring out exactly what made Stephon Diggs. Like, he had weird stuff happen. He had like lacerated kidneys that made him drop in college. He had
and he had a
Maryland
linebacker throwing to him. Like, it was he couldn't get yards because his quarterback was the 7th string guy who had happened to play quarterback in high school, was recruited as a linebacker. It was a rough time.
Yeah. I thought that we lost Braun. Arif, you're going to hate this. I thought that Xavier Restrepo fit the bill a little bit. Someone who didn't test crazy well.
Is he a 5th round guy? I don't think is Restrepo a 5th
I think
round
he
guy?
could be day 3. I mean, I'm welcome to be corrected on that, but because of his pro day, I think he's fallen. He had a 4.58. And I think that Diggs played a lot faster than his testing. And I think the same of Restrepo. They're similar sizes. He had some injury issues in college. They're not the same player, but I see a little bit of Diggs in his profile and the reasons why he might drop. So I'm going to say Restrepo. Now, you don't like him, Arif. What is your knock on Restrepo?
Well, so first of all, Diggs ran like a 4.46. Like
Restrepo is mine as well, by the way. Stupid.
Okay.
Stupid little slot. That's going to go day 3. That was kind of as far as it went for me.
But
slot.
Diggs tested fairly well. Like, when I look at kind of the things that correlate to, mid-sized receivers. So like Diggs is like 6 foot flat. The things that kind of matter are your agility drills and then your 20-yard split. And he tested fairly well in that regard, and Restrepo didn't. And obviously, we can't come up with like perfect comps for all of these guys. If we could, I think GMs would be pushing these guys up the board, and then we couldn't come up with a 5th round comp, right? The reason I said Restrepo is not a 5th round guy is because I thought he'd actually go a little bit higher despite the poor testing. So it's not that I think he's going to drop to the 6th, 7th round. It's that I think he's going to be maybe even in the 3rd round. This is an outstanding receiver class in the sense that when you compare it to the last 3 receiver classes. So I think you're going to see some of these guys get pushed up. So that was my surprise. I don't super love or hate Restrepo. I don't know where you got the idea that I really dislike him. But the testing isn't great. Maybe he is better than the testing. But just in terms of the things that correlate to success for that position and that size, he doesn't really have a lot of it, and it may be because he just had a bad day working out. You always have to kind of be aware of that, but it's not like a huge issue to me.
I think the chat nailed me on this, and I think the chat's right. I saw a 4.58. It was a 4.8 on Restrepo.
Yeah, so when I look at the APT data for Restrepo, it's a 4.86. That's rough.
Oh my god!
How about
what happened?
I don't know. I'll go with a shorter guy that's probably going to be in the slot, so not quite a Diggs analog. I'll go with Kyle Williams, mostly because he is like the draft Twitter du jour receiver right now. It was kind of funny. So like Kyle Williams, Washington State receiver, a decent amount of yardage. He ran a 4.4, I think. He's like quite good. He's like a shifty guy, and a bunch of people on draft Twitter got really excited about him. And then I think Chris Sims made him wide receiver 2, and then everyone backed off because they were like, "Whoa, hey, guy, we weren't there with you there." But if you remember from draft Twitter back in 2015, I'm sure all of you have fond memories. Stephon Diggs got he got a ton of love from draft Twitter. Because of like what he was able to do when he did have a quarterback. And so that's kind of what I'm going there. The testing, I'm not going to say confirms it because we don't have a full suite of testing for Kyle Williams, but the testing is positive. He plays a pretty similar-ish role. He's a little bit smaller, so you're not going to get some of the outside stuff that you got with Diggs. But the idea of a shifty route runner that wins more with explosiveness than with deception, which is kind of unfair to Diggs because he won with both, but explosion kind of characterized it a little bit more for him. I think that Kyle Williams kind of gives you that a little bit. So that's kind of who I think of.
I'm just blown away by this Restrepo thing.
Yeah,
Braun, did you know that when you selected Restrepo?
I didn't go that deep.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I was like, yeah, slot. Cool. Next.
Next. I do want to say this. I do want to say this about guys who test slowly that people like. In the history of my data, there's only like one receiver who's done well that's run slower than a 4.7 at his pro day. If we don't account for players who have injury excuses, essentially. So Anquan Bolden, for example, ran his pro day injured. But other than that, like it's only Jarvis Landry who ran slower than a 4.7 that's done really well. And so I'm always really careful about those receivers.
Yeah. Fifth might be high for that type of speed. Yeah, you're right, Alexander. He totally bombed. Now find me a Josh Metellus in the 6th, like a Swiss Army knife, under the radar, diamond in the rough, defensive back. I'll go first. I've got one because he's a Michigan guy. Makari Page, safety from Michigan, 6'3", 200, average measurables, can play the box, play in the box, play the slot, play free safety. Seems pretty apples to apples to me from a college standpoint. Obviously, all Michigan guys are the same, just like all LSU guys are the same.
Yep.
So
right.
It basically is Josh Metellus that they could get in day 3 with that 6th-round pick. Makari Page.
I do want to point out, Josh Metellus did not have that versatility, I don't think, coming out.
He
Am
did
I wrong?
not. No, he
was
was a
just
box
like
safety.
a ho-hum safety. And
Yeah.
a,
Which is
a
how he
big,
felt at the 6th. Right.
Yeah, and a big part of his like journey was Flores coming in. He was kind of a special teamer for 2 years, and he was a good special teamer for 2 years, and
Quite good. Yeah.
Like very clearly defined his roster spot, which is why I'm going with a guy I mentioned on the show before, Rayon Lane, the safety out of Navy. He might not even get drafted, but he is going to make a team he'll be on someone's 53 by virtue of special teams.
Braun, do you want to hit us with your
Shaquille Griffin is visiting the Seahawks today. This is something we do want to watch. If he signs for a deal that's worth more than like $4 million, it changes things for the comp formula. Again, it gives the Vikings an extra. It would give them like a 6th or something, or would allow them to sign somebody else before the draft, go get their backup quarterback that they want or something, get that cleared up before the draft. So this is a relevant thing to watch. As for the Seahawks, they don't care about the compensatory picks. They're not getting one this year. They've already gained too many compensatory free agents. So this won't change anything for them. They're not going to like wait till after the draft for their comp formula. They're just probably going to sign the guy if they like the guy. So this is a situation worth monitoring.
And we don't have to worry about Trent Sherfield's plays like
Trent Sherfield's getting 40% of the snaps.
The amount of playing time.
Sure.
This would be a little more cut and dried, and I feel like he's probably worth a contract that's in that comp formula. So that is a good observation, Luke Braun.
Yeah, what did he make, like $8 million for us? Like if he gets that again?
Yeah, easy. Arif, did you have a Josh Metellus?
Not really. The closest I got. So this is what I did, Sam. Because I didn't have, because I thought I only had to pick one guy, and I picked Elijah Ponder. That's what I did. So while you were talking, and then also graciously giving me time to stall when you covered Luke's news about Shaquille Griffin, I was looking for the guys who had the most tackles at safety that also had a pro day, so I could talk about their pro day. So I actually have no idea if this guy is actually any good, but Jordan Vincent is a guy in the draft. He ran 4.64. He had a 36.5 inch vert. These are like workouts that don't super correlate well to strong safety play. Like you want something a little bit below a 4.6. It's not that important. But if you have below a 4.6, you do want to make sure that you're running pretty good agilities. And he ran very poor agilities. Now, notably, I don't think Josh Metellus ran agilities, if I remember correctly. And so, no, he ran great agilities. Never mind. He had a 6.943 count. So I don't actually have a super great answer for you, Sam. But again, I didn't prep entirely in the spirit of the show. Maybe Keaton Crawford. He had outstanding agilities.
I like it. Who did chat have? Sebastian Castro. What do we know about him? On-air research.
What do we
chat,
know
you
about
got him? Iowa guy. 5'11", 200.
I dislike him then.
24 years old. Played in the slot. Played in the box.
24.
I see it. I see it based on the position versatility.
We're almost done with them.
I know. I know.
These old prospects, they
So
missed their
close.
freshman year. That's it. There's no more.
We're so close, but it's just I've been so attuned to like 22, 23 at the max, and then like if you get a 21, sometimes occasionally 20 years old, and now it's like 24, 25.
Yeah.
There are some
Just everybody
26-year-old
missed a year. It
prospects,
just gets
man.
weird for a little bit.
Yeah, someone misses a year because of COVID, and then they get a medical red shirt, and then they get like a weird transfer year because they're a JUCO guy, and suddenly they're 26 and they're talked about as a third round pick. What happened to the game I love?
COVID happened to it. A global pandemic.
Okay. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it inconvenienced me personally in this particular case.
Yeah. You
Challenge
should
for
make a law
Arif,
about it.
our crack researcher Arif. Can you find the age of Gophers tackle Ariante Ursary? Someone in the chat mentioning that they can't find it, and I'll be honest, I can't either. It's not, PFF's really good about having birth dates. They don't have it. Google AI doesn't have it. So
My Google AI says he's 23, but I also don't trust Google AI. They're getting it because Cincy Draft Jungle listed his age at 23. I don't know where they got it. Or Cincy Jungle's draft profile of the guy has him at age 23. I don't know where they got his age either. A lot of times in draft Twitter, you find out people's age by like going through their Twitter mentions to see who's wished them a happy birthday, and then kind of like tracking it back and saying like happy 23rd and stuff like that.
23 would
It's like
make
flight tracking level.
the most
Yeah.
sense because he played 5 years.
Yeah.
So unless
Yeah.
there was something really wonky, he probably is about 23 years old. When we return, a positional spending quiz. Plus, are there any crazy draft trends you would like to continue or avoid in the draft in 3 weeks? That's next. I love Monarch Money. Sometimes I check my bank account and I'm like, where'd the money go? And I log into Monarch Money and it tells me, it categorizes for me where my money is being spent and puts it in the various pools and shows me the percentage and the pie chart. It's great. It's easy. It's my personal CFO. I have full visibility, full control over my finances. I track the transactions. I put them in the correct buckets. It's not just a budgeting app. It's like a financial command center tracking all my accounts, whether it's, checking, savings, 401k, all of that. It's all in one place. So it's a one-stop shop for managing your money and building wealth. I promise you, you won't regret it. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com, code, all one word, LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. It's Monarch Money, and it's fantastic. Quiz time. Vikings front office hailed for their contract structuring this offseason. Now that we have most of the money reported, most of the big contracts are on the books, over the cap has them logged. Wanted to test you guys where you think the Vikings rank in positional spending now that the dust has settled. I think quarterback, you can probably predict. Let's keep track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 10 categories. Let's see who wins. Quarterback
Now,
spending rank.
Question real quick. Is this
Cap.
for how much they have allocated of their cap this year to the position, or is this how much
2025
they
cap.
Okay,
2025
not
cap.
how much they gave out this offseason.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So quarterback rank.
Presumably that means were there any voids in Sam Darnold's contract? Like if there were, presumably that means that would count here. Anyway, I don't think there were, so not really an issue.
I'm not
here,
gonna tell
but
you.
maybe issue at other positions. Oh, that's fair. I'm gonna say the Vikings. So ranking high means spending the most, right? So I'm gonna say the Vikings rank 25th.
That was exactly what I was going to say. But I also do know that there were void years in Sam Darnold's contract.
Uh-oh.
I think they take about half. It's only $5 million, so it's not going to change anything. So I'll go 24th.
That's true. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, 24th.
Braun
Yep,
goes on the
price is right.
wrong side. The wrong side. They haven't signed a backup yet. They've only got one guy. So even with those voids, 30th. in quarterback spending.
30th. Okay.
30th. Point for
Yeah,
Arif.
I guess a lot of
That's
people
true. They're
look at
saving their
contracts
$30
have, like,
million.
veterans
Yeah, they got $30 million stored away for Aaron Rodgers. That's true.
Of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Doesn't count yet.
All right, running back. They've got a 1A and 1B, Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Arif, you start, or no, who start? Braun starts. Braun starts this time.
Ooh, so they both got contracts. Nobody's on a rookie deal here. But both of those contracts, I believe, have relatively low cap hits this year. So I'm going to go with 18th.
I think it's a little lower than that, but also just because Luke just did this to me, I'm going to go 17.
And Arif guesses correctly. It was 16th.
Oh, I was close
16.
too.
Yep.
Wow.
That's crazy. I was gonna guess 14 until Luke anchored it. So
Basically, the first person sets the line, and the second person.
Yeah, that's what this
Yeah,
game has to
That's kinda
become.
what it turned into.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, I'm picking
so-
the 16th every time.
2-0. 2-0 Arif, and Arif will go first for wide receiver.
Oh Jesus. I should.
By the
be a
way,
lot more familiar
Aaron
with-
Jones and Jordan Mason aren't even making 10 million combined against the cap this year. That's how
Yeah, low
low
cap
the-
hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's it's running back, right?
The next couple years it'll be a thing. Oh my god, the Vikings are spending so and so on that running back room.
Yeah. I don't think the big hits from Jefferson's contract hit this year. So that one's tough. I'm gonna go 9th.
Okay.
Well, I definitely think it's lower than that. I was going to go a lot lower, but I'll be safe and go with 10th.
Yeah.
Braun gets it. Braun, 16th. You should have just gone 16th.
Oh, I should have just done my
16. Come on.
Yeah.
I was going to say 20th, which still would have won, but
2-1.
because he costs like 10 mil right now, and everybody else is on rookie deal.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah,
Rondale Moore.
I think Jefferson
Rondale.
was 15 or 16 mil, and then it shoots it up big next
Yeah.
year. And you're right. No
and
one
then they'll
else.
pay
Yeah, I was
Addison,
a
and
little
then
bit
it'll
like-
be big.
I'd kind of gotten the spirit of it correct, but I just still overcorrected too much. That makes sense.
Tight end. I think this is Braun.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're first. I think I know this one.
Yeah. I can't. I was gonna guess first. I'm gonna go second.
Well, that's the only way you
Okay.
could go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are going off of over the cap positional spending, and they have them fourth.
Fourth.
Hey!
Okay.
Fourth.
Who's
There you
above?
go.
What in the world?
Yeah. What other like duos are there? that
Yeah,
are-
I'll bring it up.
Because I don't think Trey McBride's cap hits yet, right? And so that would be weird. I'm so curious about this.
Saints with Taysom.
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I forgot
okay.
about Taysom Hill.
Right, yeah.
Damn it, he
Chiefs?
counts.
49ers.
49ers. That makes
Okay,
sense.
49ers.
Yeah. All right.
3-1. Offensive line. This is all offensive
All
line.
together? Oh my god.
That's how they do it. Yeah, they don't break it
Oh,
down.
boy.
All offensive line.
Oh man, okay, so I go first. This one's tough. I don't think it's I think Phillies is higher. I don't remember. I'm gonna go third. A lot of free agents.
I was thinking like fourth or fifth. So I guess in the interest of sportsmanship, I'll say fifth. If it's fourth, it'll be funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Please.
is fifth.
Hey!
Ah!
Good guess, Braun. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, there you
Panthers,
go.
Chiefs, Giants, and Bears ahead of them. Vikings
Not the
come in.
Lions.
Their Lions are right behind Minnesota.
What are the
Okay.
Bears
Right
getting out of
behind.
this? What in the world?
Bears spent more than the Vikings did. Joe
I know,
Thuney,
but
Drew
like
Dalman.
True Dalman, like he's good. Okay, whatever.
Look,
who
Coleman
else did they
Shelton
trade
was
for?
such a disaster. All they needed was a serious player. I think that was right for them
He is a
because
serious
Drew
player,
Dalman
yeah.
is a serious person. Also, the Rams paid Coleman Shelton like more than.
Who else did they trade for besides Tooney?
There
for
was
another
another
guy, didn't
guard, but I'm forgetting who it was.
Yeah, I don't think he was like good. That's like my.
But they like
concern.
replaced 3 for 3, and it was like
Yeah.
clearly their top priority.
Yeah. All right, next.
3-2 Arif. Going to defense now. Braun starts.
Jackson.
Interior defensive line.
Jonah Jackson, by the way. That was
Thank you.
interior defensive line. Pretty expensive, although the 2 contracts that they signed with Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, again, it's like low cap hits right now. But Harrison Phillips is not a low cap hit right now.
Correct.
14th.
A lot of good defensive line contracts out there. That's tough.
Yeah.
So do I go? I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go 13th.
Luke Braun's good at this game. 14th is the
Wow! The comeback.
Dang. Allen, Phillips, and Hargrave, all under $10 million cap hits.
Wait, does this make me Duke? Oh no.
Ooh.
Don't watch White Lotus.
Cooper flag. Like, so I haven't even watched any season of White Lotus.
If only
but I'm
I had
still
the
trying to
courage,
avoid
Luke.
spoilers because I feel like I will at some point, and I need to forget.
It's not a
whatever I hear.
spoiler. That
It's not
one of
a
the
spoiler.
families is like a Duke family, and
Yeah.
there are, I'll just say, some screenshotable moments that have made the rounds
memeable.
after what happened to Duke in the tournament.
I've seen a couple of them.
Okay.
Okay, well there you go. No spoilers.
3-3. The line set by Arif for edge.
Okay.
Huh.
Huh. Okay. I don't think it's top 3. But I think it's pretty high. I'm gonna go 8th.
That was about the range I was thinking. I think there are a lot of really expensive edges out there,
There are.
but my instinct is telling me 8th is like 1 too low. I'm going to go with that. 7th.
Braun gets it. It is 5th.
Wow. You demon.
Grenard went way up to
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
Van Ginkel went way up.
Is about 12, and then a smattering of
Like,
about
just
and who
tough
has
'cause,
2
like,
of
you-
those?
You hear about these edge contracts every single year, right? And so like you don't
Yeah.
know, like I'm not intimately familiar with like when Myles Garrett's contract is big and when it's small, right? And so like it's just it's like tough to parse all of that out.
4-3 Braun, 3 to go. Linebacker, and Braun sets it.
Linebacker. So they're not paying Pace. They're paying Cashman modestly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So this is probably going to be pretty low. But linebacker is low for a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm.
22nd.
I was thinking like 26th, then I was like, that's too
Okay.
low. I'm gonna go 23rd.
Okay.
Arif vultures it. 23rd is correct.
Nice!
After Braun sets it almost perfectly.
Woo! Back
Very
and forth,
nice.
baby.
Wow!
Seesaw
It's 4-4.
battle.
This is intense.
2 left. Safety
Oh boy.
set by Arif.
I don't remember the details of Harrison Smith's contract.
Ooh, I do.
This
But
is,
it doesn't help me much.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Not a lot.
This is a weird one to do this because Metellus is about to go up.
Yeah, but I don't like. It hasn't. So, okay. I'm gonna go. I mean, safety is not a super high paid position in the NFL, but when it's really highly paid, it's really highly paid.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go just below average. I'm gonna go 19th.
19th. That's a good one. I was thinking a little lower than that, so I will go 20th. I think Harrison Smith's contract is like 10 mil, but also I think there might be void years and stuff that aren't reported on that, so I have no idea what over the cap says.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 20th.
Okay.
Probably the first time that you've both been a bit off. It is 10th,
What?
I'll take the point.
and Arif will get the point. So you've got 9-9 for Harrison Smith. You've got another 6 and change for Metellus. You've got whatever Theo Jackson has on the books.
Theo. And that's enough to be 10th?
That's
is 10th.
crazy.
Wow.
Like I said, it is a really
Nobody's
low paid
paying.
position. Yeah.
Oh, that's insane to me. Like the like safeties don't matter movement has been completely nuts to me.
Well, it's interesting because that's not the analytics take, which is kind of funny, right?
Well, yeah,
I shouldn't say
depends
that's not
on
the
what you
analytics
count
take,
as
it depends.
analytics.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been
yeah.
like a very
Yeah.
like Twitter analytics take, like the same people
Yeah.
that were like Fred Warner is less valuable than like Hunter Renfro or whatever, those kind of people.
Yeah.
I don't know how we break the tie if this ends in a tie, but we have our final category at
Kicker.
cornerback.
Yeah, we have to do it at kicker, Sam.
Braun sets it. I'll have to find kicker because it's not
At cornerback.
Cornerback, yes.
Again, a big Byron Murphy deal, but not a huge cap hit for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Rodgers, I believe, same deal. And that's it. That's the end of it. Mekhi Blackman's on a rookie deal, and then you're talking about like Dwight McLaurin and like Jeff Okuda.
Deal, right?
Yeah. So it's gonna be low for now, but it's gonna shoot up soon. 26th.
I thought there was a void in Gilmore's contract.
Wait, I don't think that counts towards positional spending anymore, though. Or does it? Oh no, it did for Darnold. We did talk about it, right?
So I'm gonna go.
It's not itemized on the chart, so I can't say for certain.
Okay. So I'll go one
good luck.
Rank higher, 25th.
It was a pretty extreme line to set, Braun. That was pretty close to the back end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cheap. I mean, a lot of people are spending a lot on their corners, and I don't think the Vikings have huge cap hits.
Arif gets it. It's 19th. It's 19th.
Whoa! Coming to my house.
Fended off the comeback effort, but I'm proud of how I did today. Okay, I'm proud of how the boys fought.
6-4 final. My tiebreaker was going.
You lead in the first quarter. You lead in the third quarter. All that matters is if you lead in the fourth, and I'm glad I was able to pull out the victory at the end.
Yeah, we got things to work on. We got to watch the tape. We got things to learn from, build on. We'll be okay.
Yeah, it turns out the lesson to learn here is don't look at the contracts like Luke did. That was a mistake.
Yeah,
don't study.
Don't
all. Just gut.
No.
Tiebreaker would.
Yeah, I did best when I just went off of pure instinct.
How much money are the Vikings committed on the cap to their offense this year? That was the tiebreaker
compared to the rest of the league, right? Okay.
Like rank in it?
I was just
like
thinking.
Total?
That's a pretty good tiebreaker because
total.
Yeah.
No, actually, we can
like
do rank. Let me. I'll count it, but yeah, give me the number.
I was going to set the line for this, right? Yeah, it would have been me to set the line. I would have.
That's really hard.
Yeah, that's tough. But like, quarterback consumes so much of it, and the Vikings rank so low.
Yeah, but they're like so expensive at like everything else.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think I'll go like 20th. Is I probably where I would have gone if we had gone to tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone higher than that. I would have gone 19th. My guess would have been closer to like, okay. My guess would have been closer to like 15, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad we didn't
17.
have to go to tiebreaker. Yeah. All right.
Last one to end the show. Quasi draft trends. Is there anything that's bothered you about what you've seen from Quasi in his first 3 drafts, or anything that you've liked that you would prefer to see continue or not continue when they're on the clock in 3 weeks?
I would like him to pay actually more attention to data, if that makes sense. Well, because like as a quote unquote analytics GM, it's very much focused on like large scale process more than it is on like using data to find edges in the way that we traditionally think of analytics. And I think I would like him to lean a little bit more in that direction. I think he's and this is like armchair pop psychology. I haven't like talked to him enough to say this with any certainty, but I think he's leaning away from it. I think because he's concerned about the image of being an analytics GM. And so his picks, I think, seem to shy away from, in that respect, data. So, for example, the players that he's picking in particular rounds don't tend to be as productive in college or as athletic as their closest peers in the draft, and tend to be, at least in the middle and late rounds, older players. And analytically, you'd want to pick younger players, more productive players, or more athletic players. So I would like that just a little bit more, to kind of lean into that a little bit more and be a little bit less oriented around some of the process stuff that seems interesting, like getting guys who have been injured, right? I would just like guys with a better track record of producing, given the profile that they have.
Kind of a similar one for me. I would like for Kwesi to be a little more deferential to consensus, not the literal consensus boards that get published publicly, but I think,
well, even in the trade market, to just trade at market value instead of below market value when you're giving away picks.
Right,
and trading down.
Yeah, right. So he's losing that market inefficiency, and I think through there, it's very clear that through the Vikings' internal analytics, that they view trading down as more valuable than even the analytics charts view trading down to be. And which sure, that's your take, but you're still living in a market where you should get things at the price that they are going for, right? You don't,
right? You can just get more out of it, yeah.
Right. You don't tell your landlord to raise your rent just because of your grind set. You still have to, you still want to go for what fair price is. You don't have to take the dinner
with Jay-Z. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Also with the picks, I think last year they were reaching on consensus with every pick. And they've reached on consensus far more than they've taken fallers via consensus. Now, I think, Arif, you did research on this with your own consensus board, that reaches on consensus work out way less often to be the NFL team is right way less often than they are when it's a faller.
Yes, that's correct. I don't know about way less often, but statistically significantly less often.
I thought it was completely.
It's clear.
Reaching was not really ever never worked out, and guys who fall kind of could work out sometimes. That was, if I recall,
exactly.
The conclusion.
And the Eagles are getting the benefit of that. They've grabbed a lot of quote unquote steals, and a lot of those steals have worked out. And I think that's actually a good chunk of the data for steals working out, or specifically the Eagles. But
this worked out for Rick Spielman too, though. This was a thing that I think that they've lost from going from Spielman to Kwesi is when in doubt. And when you're in the draft board, you will be in doubt. It is an uncertain place. And when in doubt, it felt to me like Spielman would lean toward whatever their version of consensus is. And I think they had tools that were an idea of, okay, this guy's seen as a 5th rounder. We don't really have him there. We don't like anybody else. And it's the 6th. Let's take him. And you could get guys that would contribute that way. Whereas I think Kwesi is over-reliant on internal scouting and their private internal grades on guys, rather than saying, okay, look, we think that this guy's a 3rd, but it's the 2nd round, but everybody else thinks he's a 1st. Maybe we should just think about it. I think could up the hit rate a little bit.
I think, and this is actually be an interesting exercise to conduct for me, because I have the data, but I've seen people do a couple of these soft analyses, not like a study or not something rigorous, but what would happen if Kwesi had picked the consensus guy at the position that he picked instead of the guy that he did end up picking. And that first draft worked out way better, right? But also, I think just generally speaking, the drafts worked out better. So having a better understanding of kind of where the market is, both in terms of pick value and who is available at that pick that is kind of worth that, I think would produce better drafts. And so that's, because I know there's these other draft trends that people have identified. Again, we've already referenced the Tyler Forness piece over at A to Z Sports about draft trends. I'm not as definitive about some of these draft trends that he's identified. For example, avoiding small schools seems to be one that both Andrew Berry and Kwesi share, but I don't think there's enough data for us to say that definitively about Kwesi. So that doesn't concern me. I didn't want to identify that. But I do think that being kind of more aware of what the market is would produce better draft outcomes for the Vikings.
He's taken 2 small school guys, both in the 7th round, LDR from Texas A&M Commerce, and Dwayne McBride from UAB, which is I think that's FCS. Quick trivia question. Who has the highest weighted career approximate value
I don't think it's FCS,
of a Kwesi draft pick?
Who's the highest approximate
Highest
value?
AV on Pro Football Reference of any Quasi draft.
Oh, it's going to be Ed Ingram, isn't it?
It's Ed
I
Ingram.
was thinking that's got to be Ed Ingram because he started for good offense.
Because he's a guard.
so
That's yeah.
AV 's
AV like
calculated.
crazy overweights O linemen because they weight
'cause if you have
starts a lot.
starts and your offense gets points.
and there's no like stat for a lineman. So if a lineman starts and is bad, there's no way for them to measure that. So
Yeah.
Ed Ingram
Correct.
gets the same flowers as anyone who started for 3 years.
Yeah, like the only reason that Brian O'Neill would have more, well, aside from his longer career, is because he has Pro Bowls and that counts, right?
Yeah. But he also
but if,
missed
like-
time.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, if you're good and you get identified as good by the Pro Bowl selection process, you'll get some more points. But there's no distinction between the average guy who starts and a bad guy who starts in approximate value at all.
Or
You
even
get
just a
some
good player
credit
who
for when
doesn't
your
make the
offense
Pro
does
Bowl.
well. Yeah, like if you're good and you don't make the Pro Bowl, like you get the same as a player who plays in the same offense and is bad.
Yeah.
But there is an adjustment for how good the offense has been. Vikings offense has been pretty good, so it actually helps Ed Ingram out a lot.
There you go.
Arif, in closing, do you want to tell Norin in the chat why you're not high on Gray Zabel?
Is there a serious reason or is this just a bit? I'm gonna watch him like
I haven't
probably
actually watched
this
him.
week.
So question one, chances that we can trade down. One, I think that the chances are relatively high. Two, you all don't seem high on Gray Zabel in the first round. You all is basically just me. And it's because I grew up in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I hate Fargo. I'm a University of North Dakota fan. I hate North Dakota State. And the fact that North Dakota State got pretty good at football after I started hating them meant I really had to hate them. I really had to dig in and hate them. And the track record of NDSU draft picks kind of flaming out has been really excellent for the bit. I'm waiting for Cody Mock to do the same, but Billy Turner was overhyped. Trey Lance obviously overhyped. Carson Wentz overhyped. Joe Haig actually pretty decent, like a pretty good 5th round pick. But everyone else,
Do not mention Dallas Goedert. Do not mention Dallas Goedert. Do not mention Dallas Goedert.
South Dakota State.
South Dakota State?
Yeah, he's
I've
South
been wrong
Dakota
this whole
State.
time.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Oh
man?
my god.
Yeah, were you gonna tell me about Tucker
Nonsense.
Kraft next? Come on. But most of the guys have been-
Who was Jake Winicky, Vikings camp body? Wasn't that?
Oh
another,
yeah.
Jackrabbit. Yeah.
yeah, it's
He
a
w-
jackrabbit.
Wearing
But
9
most
as a
of-
receiver before it was cool.
Most of the NDSU draft picks have, luckily for my bit, not met their draft value, which I just tweeted about, and a bunch of NDSU guys got mad about it. But it's like a bunch of 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks that don't meet 3rd, 4th, 5th round value.
I think Thursday we will dig into more small school prospects, and we should have Luke Inman back.
Sure.
He'll have a couple gems. I guarantee it. That's Thursday. Also, our Care 11 edition with Reggie Wilson, Julia Daniels on Wednesday, Ron Johnson tomorrow. I think Tyler Newbin is on the show. That's going to be really good.
Nice.
Ron gets the Gophers. That's this week on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thanks for watching, listening, commenting, and subscribing. We will talk to you next time.